Welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Dre and Smiley, the Inner Circle podcast.
Smiley, man, we got a brand new connect, the money plug on this episode. Before we get into that, let me read the bio of our current guest here. So Markia Brown is also known as the money plug on social media. She's an award-winning financial educator and content creator with a social media reach exceeding 1 million followers. As an accredited financial counselor and member of the AFCPE, Markia specializes in breaking down complex financial concepts, particularly for younger demographics. Her expertise has garnered attention from prominent outlets such as the New York Times, CBS News, and others, solidifying her reputation as a sought-after speaker in financial industry circles. Markia's background as a retired U.S. Army veteran, thank you for your service, and her active involvement with Kappa Epsilon Psi Military Incorporated underscore her commitment to both financial literacy and community service. With that, Markia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So I have a few questions here. I guess I'll start from the top here. So you were in the military for a bit there. How long did you serve?
Almost 10 years. I got out 9 and 3/4. I was medically retired in 2019.
Awesome. Again, thanks for your service there. More than a bit. You're in there for almost a decade. That's awesome. So tell me about how being in the military, or perhaps something outside the military, influenced you to pursue a career in finance, specifically being a financial planner, advocate, coach, etc. Tell me about that transition and that journey.
So the thing about being in the military, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I joined fresh out of high school, so it gave me that discipline I needed. It gave me that structure, and it gave me something to aspire towards. What it didn't give me was life skills. I knew how to shoot, move, communicate, but I had no idea how to invest my retirement. I had no idea how to save. I had no idea how bills really work. It didn't teach me the things I needed to be a functioning adult outside of the military. And I didn't realize it until I got out of the military the first time in 2014. So I'm 4 years in and out. At the time, I was going through a really nasty divorce. It was an abusive relationship. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and the Army was trying to send me to Hawaii, and that was not happening. I'm from Baltimore, for context. It's about as far away as you can get. So, I was like, no, I'm out. That's it. I'm done. And I thought I was grown. I was like, I had a really good, MOS. At the time, I was a signals collection analyst. I was like, I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna find me a job and I'm gonna be straight. And then life happened and I was not straight. And it was such an eye-opening experience. I had 2 kids at the time. I had no money saved. I didn't know what a credit score was. And I just felt so unprepared. And I just kept saying, if I can get back in the Army, I'm gonna do it right. Once everything settles down with life, I'm gonna get back in and I'm gonna do it right this time. And so I did that. My job required me to have a top secret security clearance, which, if anybody knows anything about that, you got to have your money together. So I took some time. I took about a year, got my divorce. My mom completely cancer free. My kids are doing good. I'm like, all right, I'm ready. And so the riots in Baltimore happened. I'll never forget that because I actually went in labor that day. I was induced that morning, and me, my husband, watched holding our new daughter from the hospital bed, the riots in Baltimore, and I lived in the heart of all that. And he was in the National Guard at the time, and they came and picked him up from the hospital. He didn't even get to sign our daughter's birth certificate, and I was like, "Yeah, no, this ain't it. I love Baltimore; it will always be a part of me, but we out." And the quickest way out was my closest recruiting station. So I took about a month to get back into shape, went to my closest recruiter and was like, all right, what you got? It's time. So ended up getting back in, and I remembered my commitment to myself. Like we said, we were going to do it right. We're finally above water. I mean, I wasn't out the water, but my head was, I wasn't drowning. And so I
Yeah.
took the time to educate myself. I started reading books. I started going to like little workshops that they would have. I started, shout out to the USO and all of the FRGs and stuff that was attached to the units that I had been a part of, because like they would have stuff for families, teaching us how to grocery shop, teaching us how to coupon and stuff
Mm.
like that. And so I started going to those, and it's like I'm one of those people where I hyper fixate on something. So when I had set my focus on personal finance, I need to know everything about it. I need to eat, sleep, live, breathe money. And especially because apparently I like kids because I had a whole bunch of them. So I was just like, this is just
Okay.
kind of expensive. The army don't pay nothing. So I need to figure something out. So
Right.
eventually, like over the years, I learned from a lot of trial and error, but also from a lot of super informative resources. And something that I started noticing is that, like, yes, we have the budget Nisa, who hands down is like my idol, but that was really it. Like wasn't familiar with any other black women who, were held as like beacons of like education in personal finance, or like who people could look up to and aspire towards. And having little black girls, I was just like, this is not, I don't like that. Mm. And then I got out of the military. I was medically retired in 2019 unexpectedly. And we
Mm-hmm.
moved to Germany. So I had all this
Mm.
knowledge. It was the height of the pandemic. I lived in Europe. So for those of you who experienced the pandemic in America, it was 10 times worse than Europe. We had assigned times to
Wow.
grocery shop. It would take like 2 hours to get into the post office to check your mail some days. There was like,
Wow.
you couldn't leave the town after a certain time. Like you had to stay in your home. It was bad. But TikTok was
Wow.
blowing up at the time. So I was like,
Okay.
all my soldiers were still reaching out to me like, hey, because when I was in, I'm one of those people, if I know something, I'm telling everybody. I can't hold water. So whenever I would learn
Yeah.
something, I would teach everybody that was around me. So my soldiers were still calling me and was like, yo, what this mean? Or how do I read this? Or what's that? Or how can I get this? So I was like, I could just start posting on TikTok. And then I never forget, New Year's Eve, 2020, I got drunk and I was like, when it was 2019, and I just had my son, and I got drunk, and I got on TikTok, and I was like, I'm gonna do 365 days of credit tips. Posted it. I had like 100 followers at the time. Nobody was checking for me. Nobody's paying me no attention. People was laughing
Yeah.
at me, actually. I woke up that next day, and that video had like a couple thousand views, and people was like, "Oh, I'm gonna follow you. Oh, I'm gonna do this." And I was like, oh my god, what did I do?"
Wow. Yeah.
And so I felt obligated after that, and so I did it. I did it I did it scared. I did it not knowing what it could be, but I did it. And man, it opened up so many doors for me and gave me even more opportunities to continue my education in personal finance. And I went from just a girl who was trying to do a thing to now I'm an accredited financial counselor, certified financial education instructor, certified credit score
Wow.
consultant. I got to interview Nicki Minaj. Like I've done like
What?
so stuff. Like, and it's just, this is such a ride, and I'm just so
Yeah.
thankful that I get to experience it and then share the experience almost live with so many people to kind of inspire them.
Yeah.
Like if I can do it and I look like this, just imagine what you can do. And you kind of look like
Right.
me too. Like the sky's the limit for
Right.
us. And so
Right.
it's been a journey, but I've been having so much fun.
Markia, I'm listening to your story, and one huge takeaway, there's many, but one is jumping in, right? You're like, you didn't waste time and think of all the reasons why it couldn't happen. In fact, you dove in both feet head first. Let me consume all the content I can about this. You started sharing it and realized that, yeah, people want this information, and then, like you say, it just blew up all of a sudden. I think something that a lot of people don't get that is if you're passionate about something and you really are doing it because you enjoy doing it, the doors are gonna open up. Options will just be thrown at opportunities will be thrown at you. That's just something that came to mind as I listened to what you were sharing. Smiley,
My mom hates it. My mom.
she hates it. Why? Why does your mom hate it? Why does she hate
I've
it?
always been like that. I jump in head first with everything. I'm so headstrong. Like I was a kid. I've been reading on a college reading level since around about I want to say about almost kindergarten. I want to say like I was always way
Whoa.
my mom was an avaricious reader, and me and my sister are 2 years apart. And we were super tight, so she was already in school. So I was doing her work from home. So
Okay.
like, but I've
Okay.
always been like obsessed with books. Like last year,
Mm.
shout out to everybody who followed my Kindle journey, but I read 200 books
Okay.
last year. I'm on a 2-year
Wow.
reading streak on my Kindle. I read at least one book a week. Like it's
Wow.
like I love immersing myself in something. And my mom
Yeah.
hated it. I was captain of the debate team all throughout middle school, high school. I was on a basketball team, band, cross country, like
Oh
everything that
no.
interested
You're
me, I
every
was in
parent's
it.
nightmare, captain of the debate team. Like you could, your mother couldn't tell you anything. You got an argument for
Nothing.
everything.
And got my evidence all lined up. I got
Right.
references. I got all that.
Yeah.
And
Right. Right.
it's so crazy because even when I first joined the military, oh man, they used to call me "can't get right." I was always in trouble because I just could not let stuff go. And it's just crazy
uh,
how the one thing that everybody was just like, "This is gonna be the thing that causes you the most trouble. Stop it." Ended up being my greatest gift. And
mm,
it's so
Wow.
crazy how timing is everything. They always say there's two timelines: the one you make and then the one that's really for you. And
yeah.
so I just knew I was gonna be president. I was gonna do all the things and had all these plans. And then life happened. And then none of those plans meant anything. And so that was when I was like, all
Mm,
right, I'm listening. What you need me to do? What you got for me,
okay.
universe? And
Yeah.
I always make sure I make this distinction too when people listen to my story is that a lot of my story comes from a place of privilege. Serving my country was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, especially once I became a parent. But it also afforded me the ability to do the things that I've done. To be like, to be able to say, I'm not pouring in the cup that don't pour into me. I had that financial backing of my check clear on the 1st and the 15th. You get on, like
Yeah.
a lot of people when they make, decisions about what they're passionate about, or even how they make their money, it's based on the money. They got mouths to feed, they have bills to pay. All of those things are covered for me. And that allows me to be all in with the money plug. That allows me to be as dedicated and as hard charging and all that stuff because I know that my success or failure as a business owner, as an influencer, has no bearing on my income and no bearing on the quality of life that my children have become accustomed to. And so that gives me a sort of freedom in a sense. I get to be unapologetically myself. I get to not want to code switch and be proud about it. I get to do all these things.
Mm,
Um, but it's all stemming from that place of privilege because I served my country at such a young age.
Well, I want to
love it.
thank you as well. Dre, thank you twice for your service. I want to thank you for your service as well. But I'm just amazed that you read so many books, which is amazing. So tell me, out of the books you've read from financial perspective, what are the top two that you would recommend to someone listening to this,
Okay.
starting on a journey? And then just from your life experience, what is the best one book you would say, whether it's finance, relationship, God, spiritual, best book you've ever read? So two on finance and one being your best book ever.
Coming hard. Okay. One of those people who like I never can say I have a favorite book because it always changes depending on like what season of life I'm in.
Author,
But
Yeah.
author,
my favorite books,
favorite
my top
author.
two right now. And
Mhm.
one, this was her first book. It just came out last year. And I got to meet her personally. And I think that's what gave me such a tight connection to the book. She's a first generation Haitian American. She's an amazing woman. And her name is Melissa. And her book is called So This Is Why I'm Broke. And what
So
I
this is
loved,
why I'm broke.
yes, what I loved about her book was that it was so real. A lot of times when we read these personal finance books, like I know everybody and their mama probably read The Total Money Makeover and something by Sue
Mhm.
Zorman, and which is cool, but I couldn't relate to none of that stuff that lady was saying to me. Like with Melissa in her book, she used her life and her life experience being the one of multiple children of immigrants. Um, to really sink in some of those critical financial skills. And it was one of those books that was like, damn, where was you when I was going through my thing? Like, it was one of those.
Mhm.
And that book, man, I share it with everybody. When I tell you I'm always on Amazon buying another copy, I feel like the Jehovah's Witness the way I be passing it on. Like, listen, have you heard about this author? Like, I'm telling you, I'm obsessed with this book. Um, my next favorite book, hands down, got to be anything written by Tiffany Aliche. She is my idol in the sense of her story is so inspirational. She is so like how she uses her life and like things that are common, stories in the black community to really help us understand these financial concepts and to understand why it may not have been clicking before. She doesn't make you feel bad about being where you are right now, as long as you're committed to making that change. Um, and that not having that shame factor is big, right? Because a lot of prominent people in the personal finance space, or just in the finance industry, period, really harp on shame to get people to change their financial behaviors. When in reality, if you want a behavior to really change, you got to get them to understand, why were you making this decision in the first place? What was it doing for you? Why is it not serving you? And now what can you do differently to make better decisions that will serve your true focus? And I absolutely love anything she writes. I'm telling you, I'm eating it up. I'm telling you.
Awesome.
I love that. I love
And then
that.
two big books for me. Oh, I got one right here. See, listen, I'm telling you, I got books all over my house, even in my kitchen. This was such an eye opener for me. This is Twice as Hard: Navigating Black Stereotypes and Creating Space for Success. And I know I'm gonna butcher the name. I'm so sorry, but Opeyemi Sofaluke and Raphael Sofaluke. And man, this book was just so eye-opening. It has so many prominent figures in the Black community who talk about different experiences they've had, different lessons that they've learned, and just talking about, like, it's really talking about building your network. And as a Black woman entering a predominantly white space, and I'm a non-traditional Black woman at that, I got green hair, facial piercings, and I have a very colorful vocabulary the Army left me with. So, I'm not exact. People not really chomping at the bit to get to know me. You feel me? So, this book was really profound for me, and it's something I often go back to and just kind of like reread and kind of pour into myself with, knowing that I'm on the right journey. It just looks different right now. That's it. Like, and I'll find the village that I'm supposed to be a part of when I'm supposed to be a part of it. Just being patient and stuff like that, and talking about the different parts of building a network, especially professionally. Like, for example, if you need sponsors to host an event, right? How can you position yourself as a Black woman, right, into these positions to be like, hey, look at me, give me your money. So it was a very profound book. So if you are a business person, or you're in a space, no matter what it is, I highly suggest this book. And then
Okay.
when I didn't go to first grade. I skipped first grade, so I was in second grade, and I've read two books that really opened my eyes to a lot. For those of you who have never been to Baltimore, Baltimore is predominantly Black. I didn't really
Hmm.
understand what my Blackness meant to people who aren't Black until I was really older. But my first, I think, introduction to it was when I read Native Son by Richard Wright. I read that
Mm-hmm.
when I was in second grade, and man, the story of
Wow.
Bigger Thomas, and like how that whole situation played out was just so eye opening for me, because I was never raised to believe that my Blackness was a weapon or was a threat. And so to
Mm,
to be exposed to something like that so early was definitely a blessing, because then when it did happen, I was kind of prepared for it in a sense. It was like,
mm,
oh, I knew this was going to happen. Like, I was hoping for the best, but kind of preparing for the worst. And I definitely think it helped shape my relationship with non-Black people, and especially once I
mm-hmm,
joined the military. The field that I was in was not really Black friendly, let alone woman friendly. So it kind of prepared me
mm,
for that. And then, of course, the miseducation of the Negro. I also read that
mm-hmm,
year, and man, that started my journey with accepting my Blackness, and
mm,
really knowing that it wasn't a mistake. I'm supposed to be like this. I'm supposed to be
mm-hmm,
here, and I deserve to be here just like everybody else. It doesn't matter what the world is telling me, right? I know for a fact that God made me this way for a reason, and I'm supposed to do something with my Blackness. I'm supposed to be something with my Blackness, despite what everybody else tells me about it. And that was also
mm,
something that was very profound. It helped kind of break a lot of kind of mental ceilings for me as a kid. There was no such thing as a limit for me. That's why I did
yeah,
everything. I joined every club. I poured myself into every endeavor I was a part of, because I
mm,
knew that it doesn't matter what nobody else tells me about my Blackness, or about what it means to them. As long as I know what it means to me, that's all that matters.
yeah. The confidence, the security.
Yes.
So, Markia, let me think about. Let me think as I think about what you shared. Something that I mentioned on this podcast over and over again is our horizon is directly correlated to our exposure. You were fortunate in that you were unique. You were unique. It seems like not a adequate enough word, but for now, I'm gonna go with unique. and that you were consuming content at 2 years old that some people leave college having not consumed. In terms of these books that you read, Native Son and others, that helped you build this confidence and understanding of who you are and how you're perceived in the world. And you talk about the value that gave you and being able to, you know, be nimble, when needed, and and adapt when needed in these environments that weren't Baltimore. So I guess hopefully one of the takeaways for those listening and watching this is that exposure is everything. You said that you were on the debate team, et cetera, and you did all these amazing things that all have just set your horizon to the stratosphere, and beyond. Tell me this. Let's talk about the community a bit as it relates to finance. So you're an accredited financial planner. Tell me about some of the common mistakes you see happening in our community as it relates to mismanagement of finance, and how what's the one message you want everyone to hear to address those common mistakes?
When I first started the Money Plug, I started on Clubhouse, and I used to do something. I don't want to cuss on here, but my very first little room I used to host. It was called Hood Ninjas Need Credit Too, and it
Okay.
was for recently released felons who were reintegrating into society. I had started it based off of a connection that I had with a young man who it's crazy. He actually passed away a little while after. But he was a recently released felon. We connected on Clubhouse. He was from Philly. And all he wanted to do was be an author. But when he was going and trying to pitch his ideas and trying to get somebody to help him, get his book together, he didn't have the money for it. So, and they weren't trying to sponsor it. So I started that room, and I would just listen to these men tell their money stories. And then eventually it blew up, and women started showing up. And then, I started speaking to kids. And the resounding theme was they were defeated before they had even started the race. They were like, why should I do this? Banks don't mess with us, no way. Nobody's gonna give me no money because I'm Black. Nobody's gonna do this because I'm everybody was just not even willing to fight because they were just so beat down by the circumstances that life had unfortunately thrown their way. And I started sounding like a broken record. Like, come on, y'all. That one annoying person in your friend group who's just so optimistic. Like, girl, I'm going through something. I do not need you. Don't do that.
That's the guy in my friend group. He's Mr. Optimistic.
Oh my God,
They
and they
exist
hated
everywhere.
it. They
Yeah.
hated it. But and it's so funny because if you ever look at any of my videos, you don't see my story in my videos. It's not something that I disclose every 5 seconds. And it really, my message to them was always my story. I would tell them the things that I went through. 2014 was the hardest year I've ever been through in my life. And I'd be outlining it in detail. And I'm like, if I can survive all of this, if I can survive everything that I've been through and come out on top, I know you can. But you ain't even tried. How do you know? Be real. How did you know? How you know? You ain't got no crystal ball. And I mean, listen, if you already losing, it don't help to try. I mean, it don't hurt to try. If you lose again, you was already losing. You ain't really lose nothing. So it's just
Right.
my message I want all of you to take away is if you don't try, you'll never know. And then you'll spend the rest of your life wondering, wishing you could go back to that time and do that thing. And all you had to do was just take that first step in the first place. Once you get your money together, that opens up the your eyes to so many other opportunities outside of money, right? Once my money situation was solved, now I've figured out my life passion, my legacy I'm leaving behind for my kids because I got that money stuff together first. Once your money's together, it just frees up so much. And I just want so many people to release themselves from the shackle of, I can't. They not going to help me. Nobody's here to walk me through it. I'm here. There's a lot of people here. You just got to say you need help. Put your hand up. Blow the whistle. We can't come get you out the water if you're not blowing your whistle, right? That's what they tell you when you crash.
Yeah.
So you got to blow your whistle. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to start.
So with that in mind, for those that are listening to this and they feel inspired that, they're ready to jump in, how can they connect with you to get that started? Do you have courses? Do you offer consultation sessions? Clubhouse no longer exists, so and I know that that's not an option. But yeah, talk to us a bit about how can they get started with you?
Well, so my website is themoneyplug.co, not .com. My website has an online shop where you can buy digital products that I sell. You can sign up for financial counseling services. I also just launched a shiny, mighty network community called the Dollars and Cents Society. It's in a soft launch status. It'll be open to everyone else March 1st. I have a Facebook group that you can still join. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, they do got a link that you can get into the Mighty Network group early. But the Facebook group is called Plugged In, the Credit Clubhouse. I'm on every social media platform y'all on. I'm even on PlayStation Network. I changed my PSN name to my Money Plug name so people can find me there too. So at
Love it.
THEE Money Plug on all platforms. I'm based out of Los Angeles, so if you here, call me. I would love to connect and all that stuff. I'm telling you, when I say I'm everywhere y'all are, that's not an exaggeration. But
Like Dion says, I ain't hard to find.
I ain't and ain't trust me. And all you gotta do,
Well,
literally, if you just Google Markia Brown the Money Plug, I promise you, like everything pops up.
Okay.
tell me this. This is a question I usually think about with financial planners and experts. Let's say you get someone and their finances in chaos and you get them on the right path. At which point, and I know you could put it in a range or general, but at which point do you say, all right, it's time for you to start investing? You need to get into the stock market. You need to get into Bitcoin, or you need to branch beyond the budgets and everything because you're coming along, you're coasting, but now you need to make your money grow for you, make it compound. Do you transition to that, or is that someone else in your network that you say, Dre, you've done really, really well. You've been out for about 7 years now. You got some money saved up. You need to start investing. How does that work?
I'm real big on community. So I've surrounded myself with a network of people who are well versed in the subjects that I am not certified to give advice. I don't have any certifications regarding investing, so I don't give investment advice. I'm real big on the rules, especially so because
Hmm.
I started off with credit. You got to be very, very careful what you saying and doing because the feds is watching. Um, but shout out to Building Bread on social media. His name's Kevin Matthews III. He's an amazing resource. And it's actually a part of my financial counseling program. While we're
Hmm.
going through, so it's a 4-stage process. The first stage is always healing your relationship with money, because I can teach you all the skills in the world, but if you still haven't healed that relationship that you had with money, you're still going to be making the same mistakes you were making. So we heal your relationship with money first, and then I teach you how to make more money or how to elevate the skills that you have so that you can position yourself to make more money when you're ready to move on to the next thing. And then after that, we talk about managing your money properly. And then that's kind of where investing comes in, because a lot of people don't wait until they're debt free to invest. But it's also not up to me to dictate when you are ready to start investing. So a part
Hmm.
of my kind of process is introducing them to other financial influencers who post about it on social. Just follow them. You don't got to do nothing. I'm not saying open a brokerage account or anything. Follow them. If you got questions, ask them, or you can ask me and I ask them for you. I have a really good relationship with him. There's also Better Wallet on social media. Mark is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I
Mm-hmm.
also love influencers where investing isn't necessarily their like thing, but they talk about it in a way that makes you comfortable. Like, oh, okay, what else you got? Like, so Millennial in Debt, which is Melissa, the one who wrote This Is Why I'm Broke. There's also Bougie Budgeter. I love her so much. She she's in the DMV. And so that's home for me. So I'm just obsessed. And she talks about it through the lens of being an employee. She has a 9 to 5. And when she talks about things like investing for retirement and just investing personally, she talks from that lens, which I love sharing with people, not just entrepreneurs who like retire themselves and their family. That's really unrealistic for a lot of people. So I like exposing them to different people on different areas of the spectrum who give sound financial advice regarding investing. But I don't help you invest. I just kind of push you in the right direction, give you a lot of my recommendations, and then we go from there. So you'll tell me your goals and what you're doing, and I just keep you on track to make sure you're doing it.
No, I love that answer. And the one thing, because you're such a big book enthusiast, at what age do you, for people who have young people, say young kids, 5 years of age, I read
Oh,
something
I'm
it
so glad
said
you asked me this.
JP Morgan said that he was doing, in a book I read about him, he was running his household finances at 5. Warren or JD Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller started thinking about investing when he was 11. Buffett was 9, Warren Buffett. And what would you say for people of our persuasions and our demographic? When is the best time to introduce our kids to finance, or I know reading should be early, but just financial literature or kids' book
Immediately.
that you might recommend immediately? All right.
Immediately. There's a book.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. What is her name? It's slipping my mind right now. Her name is Pep Talks on Instagram. She's been in the financial education space for years up in Philly. Um, and Rachel, sorry, Rachel is her name. She has a children's book called Amber's Savings Box, if I'm not mistaken, is the name of the book. Absolutely love that book. I have 5 kids of my own, and we actually homeschool. And as somebody who had such an early introduction to just knowledge in general, when my kids were in public school and I was in the military, I obviously did not have the luxury of being able to really put eyes on what was going on. But when I was
Yeah.
retired in 2019, I had one of my kids was diagnosed with 3 different types of ADHD, and like the school was trying to convince me that she was the problem, and they was talking medication and IEPs, and I'm just like, oh, whoa, this is she's a kid. Like, what are you? Of course you
Mm,
don't want to sit still. She's a child. And so I listen, I'm one of them, like I'm one of them people, if you won't do it the right way, I'll do it myself. I pulled every single one of my kids out of school and we homeschooled. And we homeschooled during the entire pandemic, not virtual school. Like I was everything. We was doing virtual museum tours. We were doing, when we moved back to America, we were going to the zoos. I was the one with the flag guiding the kids. We had uniforms. We had everything. Let me tell you, like it was legit. And
Wow.
that was when I
Yeah.
realized, a lot of people depend on the financial system, I mean, the education system to teach their kids these things. But the earlier you introduce your kids just to the concepts, it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to money, but just some financial concepts, the easier it is for them to grasp when they're older. So, for example, like understanding the time value of money, right? So
mm,
we understand what getting paid by the hour means. So when we make purchases,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, damn, that's I feel like the father of everybody hates Chris. You know how like when he would do something and he would know how much it cost. I know how long it's gonna take me to make that money back. Like,
Right.
how many hours
Right.
that's gonna take me to replace that purchase. So I think
Right.
in that sense. So for my children, I live in a very tech savvy household. I grew up in the cyberspace in the military. That was my bread and butter. I shout out to the National Security Agency, DISA. I've worked in some really interesting places. So we're a super tech savvy household. So my kids earn screen time. You out of screen time for the week and you want some more? Okay, let's make a deal. What you got for me? All right, well, I need you.
mm,
If you give me more of this every day, I'll go ahead and give you this up front, and you just owe me on the back
Mm.
end. But if you don't give me what you say you're gonna give me, I'm taking it all. I'm taking your whole iPad. You're just not getting nothing. And that teaches them,
Right.
for
Right.
example, the value of, let's say, a car. Adults get a loan for a car. You don't make your payments. Guess what? They're gonna come snatch it, right? It makes it
That's right.
easier for
That's
them to
right.
understand them concepts once they become adults. If we're introducing these things to them, these principles to them in fun ways that they'll be able to understand as children. It doesn't necessarily have to
Mm.
be books. It doesn't have to be you sit in
mm,
this chair and I'm going to point on this board and teach you that way. And that was also something I had to unlearn as a homeschool parent, or D school as what we call it in the community. But you know, everything is a learning experience when you're a parent. You are your child's first teacher. So anything you can teach them, let them sit in on the money meetings that you're having every month. When you get paid and you got to
mm,
Mm.
sit down and you looking at them bills, sit down and let them do
Mm.
that. Parents be like, oh, they don't need to see this. It's my responsibility, not theirs. It's still your responsibility whether they're going to be there or not. So let's clear that up. However, you are disillusioning them. You are showing them the reality of the world so that when they are thrust into it, whether it's expected or unexpected, they know what
mm,
it consists of. They understand the power and balance in a budget. And they know that mom had to rob Peter to pay Paul. I don't want no part of that. Kids learn from seeing. Even if you're not saying nothing to them, just show them. Even if you're not
mm,
sure yourself, as you learn on your journey, expose your kids to it. They might be into it. You never know. And there's, with the internet being what it is right now, there are entirely too many resources online. Teacher pay teachers. Let me tell y'all, teacher pay teachers, education.com. Like those are my go-tos. I be printing worksheets out like it's nothing. Like, you would think I'm hustling out my office the way my printer always going. Um, there's entirely too many resources that are available for parents for us to still be sitting here and saying, I don't know how to teach my kids about money. Do you not know how to teach your kids about money, or are you not confident in your personal finance skills and feel as though you don't want to mess your kids up? Because that's a different conversation we got to have
It's a
if that's
different
the case.
conversation. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, as we move into the final four, we have a bank of questions that we usually use, and no random order, but here's one. What is the biggest risk you've ever taken?
Getting married a second time. Let me tell y'all something. That sounds real crazy because I'm only 30, but if you're in the military, you know. Like, when I talk to civilians, they be looking at me like, you got how many kids? And you on what number married? Like, but in the military, it's like, oh, okay. Like, that's like a thing for us. But like, man, after my first marriage, it left me rough. It was an abusive relationship. It was a very nasty custody battle. And I was just absolutely like, bro, no, get out my face, ill voice. Like, I wanted nothing to do with nothing. But the husband that I have now, we grew up together. I've known him since I was like 6. So he's seen
Wow.
me at the various stages of life. We literally became adults together, and he was very
Wow.
tenacious. But it also, through his pursuit of me and trying to lock it down, it taught me the power in partnership. And it taught me, together we decided to become partners first in everything. He's my biggest supporter. I'm his biggest supporter. When he said he wanted to get out the military, all right, cool, let's start working on your med board packet. When he told me he wanted to get in the military, I was like, all right, cool, let's go see a recruiter. We sat down together. Like, we do everything together as a unit. And that taught me the value in my village. My village might not look conventional, it might not look traditional, but it's mine and it's strong. And we got, like, we all we got. And so, that was the biggest risk I took. Getting remarried, if anybody else know anything about personal finance, getting married is a big risk. But doing it after
Yeah.
failing so publicly and so harshly, it was the biggest risk I ever took, and it paid off so well. I would never be able to do what I do now without the support and of course you could do it. The delulu that my husband has really fueled
Right.
mine. So that was definitely the biggest risk, but it paid off immensely.
Nice. Second question here is, who would you like to be stranded on a deserted island with?
Y'all gonna laugh at me. Guy Fieri. All right, but like, hear me out.
Who?
No, I'm only laughing. I'm only laughing because I didn't expect Guy Fieri. I was thinking about everybody but him. But talk to me.
My followers know I'm a notoriously horrible cook.
Okay.
I am horrible at cooking. Like, my husband do all the cooking in here. Like, I don't even go in my kitchen. I couldn't even tell you what's in my refrigerator right now for $1 million. I will leave that day. Guy Fieri gonna make sure I eat because I'm a carnival.
Right.
I'm a carnival cruiser. Let me tell you, them burgers. Let me tell you
Yeah.
something. Guy Fieri gonna make sure I eat till help get here. That's who I need. He know all the scripts and all that stuff. I need him.
Yeah. Okay. You'll be set. So you'll be on the island, but you won't be hungry.
Sure won't. Listen, food get me do anything. It's so funny. My troops used to bribe me with food. They'd be like, "Hey, I get you Chick-fil-A." I ain't see nothing. Right now, like, food is my everything. Like, that's the way to my heart. Like, you give me food, I sit down and do whatever you need me to do. So food is just that. You want to kidnap me? Put on free food, and you got me.
Slide me over a triple burger with cheese. I got what you need.
Seafood boil. I might give you a couple of these singles to claim on your taxes. You give me a seafood boil.
That's hilarious.
Well, here's the third final four. What's the one thing people don't know about you that you wish they did?
I'm so much more than that first impression you think you have of me when you see me on social media. I recently had a discussion on LinkedIn as well as on live. I had an interaction where a lot of people, when they hear that I'm an influencer, they instantly turn their nose up at me. And they're like, you don't know nothing about finance. Like, why should I listen to you? And then when I lay out all of my certifications, they're like, oh, now you're interested in speaking to me. Example, in this meeting, I was telling people that, these were higher education financial professionals, bankers, people who are very heavy in the community, and they were.
Mm.
And we were discussing what are ways that we can disseminate information to clients and, just people who need to know it. And I said, well, if you don't have a strong presence on social media, you could always partner with influencers. I'm real big on collaborate, don't hate, right? Like, it's not a
Mm-hmm.
competition. We all got the same goal. Bro, they laughed in my face, like no exaggeration. They like laughed in my face and scoffed at the idea of partnering with influencers. And I was mad. But excuse me, because I'm an influencer, but I'm also in this room with you. So what does that say? And several someone's scheduled meetings with me afterwards. And we would do the meetings at like 15, 30-minute little coffee talks is what I call them. And at the end of each meeting, what I would always hear is, I never thought, like, I didn't have this impression of
Mm.
you. And like, or like, you like completely blew my expectations out the water. And you know what it reminded me of? Growing up and hearing you are very articulate for a Black girl.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You speak so well.
Like, or
How
like
did
being
how did you get English at such a young age?
Right, right.
Anybody who knows me knows I'm extremely confrontational. If you've seen my content, you know I'm extremely confrontational.
Yeah,
I was like, "What you say? Huh?
yeah,
Like, say that louder, because I don't think I
right.
heard you that first time." But like, it completely grinds my gears that people will take one look at me and they see the green hair, the nails, the facial piercings, the very colorful language, and they assume that I hold no value. They assume
Mm.
that they don't need to get to know me. I don't have nothing that could, like, benefit them in any way. And then later on, when they see the actual value that I have, and when they see me out here shining, and when they hear, oh, yeah, she was a speaker at the National Credit Union Administration DEI Summit, or she did this with the FDIC, or yeah, she was in the New York Times. You didn't know that? Like, that's when they're like, oh, and they're like dying to introduce themselves to me.
Right,
No,
right,
no, no.
right. Right.
Look
You
like
late.
Tulsa.
You late.
Back then they didn't want me. Now I'm hot, they all
Yeah.
want me. Like,
Right.
no.
Mike Jones.
Mike
I want people to
Jones.
understand that I don't understand. Like, wealth doesn't look like one thing, because wealth
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean one thing. Wealth means something different to everybody. So don't judge me based off of what you perceive wealth to be. Just get to know me. Ask me first. Talk to me. Stop walking up to people thinking you know their whole life story in the 2 seconds that you set eyes on them. You don't know what blessings you are pretty much taking yourself out the running for, because you wanted to be judgmental and you wanted to put your expectations for yourself on others instead of just asking
Mm.
them, who are you?
Mhm.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Here's the last of the final four questions. What never fails to make you laugh?
Um, Goofball, if y'all haven't noticed. I love dad jokes. I absolutely
Okay.
love dad jokes. Like the cornier, the better. Oh, I got one. Y'all want to hear my favorite one? This is
Yeah,
my favorite.
yeah.
All right. What do you call an alligator in a vest?
An alligator in
Oh,
a
they're in a
vest.
mess.
I don't know.
Dapper Dan.
An investigator.
Investigator.
I like love that joke. It's a running like joke in my friends. And the cornier the better. Like,
I
we
love
have
it.
like the worst day, and they will send me. There's a whole channel dedicated to dad jokes, all deaf dad jokes, and they'll just send me TikToks. Like, here you go, sis. We got you. We pour it into you.
Yeah.
So dad jokes
So I have a
never fails.
I have a shirt that I wear. My daughter, it's not her favorite, but I love it. It says, "I keep all of my dad jokes in a database." In a database.
That's a good one.
Good one. I like that one.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I
My husband
like
not at
dad
that
jokes
stage.
too.
My husband not at that fatherhood stage yet. He's still trying to cling on to his youth. He not doing
Ah,
the running shoes with the athletic pants and the
okay.
hat with the dad, the
Yeah,
corny dad jokes. He not there yet. But our oldest, she'll be 13 this year. So I told him it's time. It's time. We got to
yeah.
get you ready.
That's
well,
funny.
this has been fascinating. I just enjoy speaking with you. I feel like we could talk for hours. Line of Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for what you do with the podcast. You know, I'm real big on community. If it wasn't for the community that rallied around my mom, I wouldn't be where I am. And so, you know, it's our turn to give back. So whenever y'all need me, listen, I'm here. I'm here for
Uh,
y'all.
I love it. I love
Awesome.
it. The money plug is the answer, and we'll have you back on the pod for sure. Thanks for being on.
No problem. Thank you guys.
All right.